In today's video, we are going to be talking about the shadow self, the higher self, and the true self, and how all three of those entities, beings, energies are important, how they combine together. Why are they all, how are they related? Why are they all related? We're going to talk about that. And by the end of this video, you're going to see how it's important for you to get to know all three of these aspects of yourself in order to pretty much really be in alignment with yourself and your spiritual path. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Salutations everyone, my name is Neptune Jones and we are back again with yet another video. Now, in today's video, like I said, we're going to be talking about the shadow self and the higher self and how you must be able to pretty much become aware and come into alignment with those two aspects of yourself in order to become your true self. Sounds good? Sounds good. Now, I don't know if I'm the only person that feels this way. I really don't know, but it makes sense to me, so I'm going to try to make it make sense to you. But without further ado, let's kind of get into what the shadow self and the higher self is before we kind of get into the real meat and potatoes, okay? So if I'm looking over here, it's because I got my notes. So make sure I give you the right information. Yeah. Now, again, when it comes to some of these spiritual terms, they're not going to be in the dictionary, unfortunately. So it's pretty much a free-for-all as far as trying to get the most out of trying to find a definition. And I thought I was going to say something else, but I don't know what that would have been. Anyways, I found some definitions that I resonate with, and here we go. So the shadow self is essentially, the shadow self refers to, the shadow self refers to parts of yourself, whether personality, traits, emotions, thoughts that are difficult to accept. So my definition of the shadow self would be the parts of you that are hidden or difficult to accept, whether personality traits, emotions, thoughts, etc. These are things that you're either aware of or you're not aware of. And this is essentially the parts of you that you don't like, and so you keep it hidden from yourself. Or you try to, but you can't. The higher self definition. Now, when it comes to higher self, I found this definition that is almost spot on. So I don't think I need to kind of revise that, but here it says, our higher self is the wise being within all of us. It is a calm, loving, and spiritual guide that brings our positive characteristics to the surface and tasks us with questioning our lower nature. And I have a quote here to kind of dive a little deeper into understanding what higher self is. And it's by Nanette V. Hucknall. Yeah, okay. And the quote goes, the higher self is the most powerful instrument there is. And like any other instrument, you need to learn how to use it. By living in alignment with your higher self, you will transform into who you are supposed to become as you realize the essence of your being. That is beautifully said. I couldn't even say it better myself. and so I won't. So with that, you have pretty much this higher being that's kind of like an anchor, kind of like a lighthouse that is guiding you if you become aware of it and you align yourself with it. This higher being that pretty much sets you up and puts you on the path that you can reach your greatest potential. But then you have the shadow self. There are these things that can essentially hold you back, because there are things about yourself that you don't like, things about yourself that you still you're not aware of. So let's say, for instance, you have this bag of tools and you have it in the shed. Some of these tools might help you, some of these tools might not help you. All you know is that you got a bag of tools, but you're refusing to go check to see what's in there, to see what you can use to your advantage to build this foundation, which is the foundation of your life. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I feel as though it's important to know the shadow self and the higher self, because I feel like they are two sides to one coin. And when you put these two these two versions of yourself together, they make the coin being your true self. And I don't think there is a definition for your true self. So let me just tell you what my definition of your true self is. Yeah. So my definition of true self would be, your true self is authentic and unapologetic with their nature. They are in alignment with both the shadow and higher selves, and have integrated both of these aspects of themselves with love and light. So pretty much, to kind of go back to my analogy, you have the higher self and you have the shadow self, and then you're coming into terms with who and what that is and what that looks like, and you're combining them together in alignment, and two sides become one. Two become one. You know that song by Spice Girls? Yeah. Two become one. Two sides of one coin. The shadow self and the true self. The shadow self and the higher self become the true self. Makes sense, yeah? I hope so. Just to make sure, because I can't remember if I got into how this is important, but I feel like that's the only way towards really getting to understand yourself and to knowing yourself and to reaching your truest potential. You have to face the good and the bad. You have to, let me say this. When it comes to understanding yourself, the good and the bad, the shadow and the higher self, you want to make sure you know yourself better than anyone else. Have you ever had like a conversation and then you get in like a little tit-tat or a little argument, and then someone says something about you and hits you wrong? It's like, did they really just say that? Like, you're offended. But you can't call them out on it, because when you think about it, when you're processing what they're saying, it's hitting home. It's resonating. The bitch called you out on your own shit, and you can't say nothing, because deep down, you know it's true. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't know yourself fully, and you're not aware of some of these things that are hidden. Somebody else might see something that you don't see, and they'll call you out on it. Now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing, but in the scenario that I'm mentioning, when you're getting an argument, and yeah, all bets are off, and someone's like, well, you know what? And you're like, and the next thing you end up scrapping. All because you mad. You beating their ass. But you know they're right. Yeah. Stuff like that. That's why it's best you know yourself better than anyone else. And when someone calls you out on your shit, you're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I accept that. But that ain't what we're talking about right now. Or at the very least, just own your shit. But anyways, yeah. I think that's pretty much a good description of being connected with yourself and being aware of like every aspect of yourself. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else that I want to kind of dive into before I get to my favorite part, which is the perspective shift. But I feel like if we go into the perspective shift, then maybe it'll kind of bring it on home. Was that a bat baseball? Was that a home run? The form. Oh. The form's a little iffy. Forgive me. But we're going to hit it on home with the perspective shift. And I feel like if I use these examples, then I think you'll get it if you haven't gotten already. Actually, leave me a comment before we get into it. Or you can leave a comment while you're getting into it. And what I want to know is when you first embarked on your spiritual journey, were you introduced with your shadow self or your higher self first? I don't think people ask that question. But now I want to know. Leave a comment. And if you're liking the video so far, give me a thumbs up. If you're liking the vibe, give me a thumbs up. If you're not, give me a thumbs up. Okay, perspective shift. Let's go. Okay, so this episode of, segment of perspective shift is really interesting. So what I'm going to be doing is talking a little in depth on integrating your shadow self and your higher self in order to become your true self. And I know the best way for me to explain that would be using Dragon Ball Z and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which need no introduction. So let's dive right on in. So with the shadow self, I want to kind of use Dragon Ball Z, specifically Vegeta, as an example, because he has a lot of I don't know if I should say he has a lot of issues or he has a lot of unresolved trauma. And it's actually kind of funny to kind of sit here and talk about Vegeta in this way, only because he's one of my favorite characters. And I mean, I love him for who he is, but if we're looking at it from a spiritual sense, well, for one thing, I feel like he isn't I don't think he's in the same level as Goku when it comes, I mean, there's just no other way to put it, and I hate to compare them two, but I would really consider Goku to be an enlightened being, or at an enlightenment state. And I don't think Vegeta is there yet. Now, I haven't watched any of Dragon Ball Super, so I don't know if he's changed, if he's still the same person. I would hope there would be some growth there, but specifically with Vegeta, I feel like he's more so on the lower scale, the vibration level. Pride, I would definitely say. But anyways, In this particular season, I think, which is what, season 7, season 8, he, he's been on Earth for a while. He's become very, I don't know how I would explain Vegeta, because Vegeta is very complex. He's not a man of very words. He's really straight to the point. And he hides his emotions for sure. So it makes a lot of sense how he, quote unquote, got corrupted by Bobbity at this particular point. Pretty much where Bobbity is, where he sees the anguish and the trauma and the shadow within him. He sees Vegeta kind of suppressing that instead of, I guess, embracing it and letting it out. And so he plays on that. And it's pretty much a game of, it's a mind game, pretty much. What's interesting is that he ends up getting corrupted, but we find out later in the show that he wanted to get corrupted. He allowed himself to be corrupted because I guess the storyline or the paradigm that he's that's going on in his head. And I think the biggest reason what because of it was, again, his pride, and also I think this was the only way for him to pretty much resolve that healing that shadow, becoming in tune with his shadow self. This was the only way I feel like Vegeta would have been able to accept that side of him, because he's been suppressing it pretty much after he got his ass handed to him, right? Yeah, Vegeta had a lot of he was humbled. Getting killed by Frieza, getting beat down by 18. I mean, yeah, he's had a lot of humblings. And so, to say the least, I think it's safe to say that Vegeta embraced his shadow self in an unorganic way. But anyways, I don't want to focus too much on the shadow. Let's switch to Avatar, because in Avatar we have Aang, who can ascend to the Avatar state, which I would kind of like to use as an example as the true self, but he had to get through some trauma as well. And what's interesting is that in order for him to ascend and connect effortlessly with his Avatar state, he had to go through the 7 chakra systems and align them in order to reach the Avatar state. Now, in a sense, you could say that the Avatar state is his higher self, but I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that the Avatar state would be more so his true self, because he's fighting those demons in the lower realms of the chakra system. And then I believe after the first 3, he reaches the heart chakra, which we could say that he, at some point, is connected with his higher self. But I feel like whereas Vegeta is more a little rough around the edges and had a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, and just some issues, and I really can't even explain. Again, I can't really explain it too much with Vegeta, but with Aang, I feel like he was just more so holding on to some shame and some guilt for, I think, abandoning his people, and not living up to, I guess, whatever the Avatar or whatever he was raised to believe. But I feel like he overcame of course he overcame all of that and pretty much ascended to his Avatar state. So to kind of wrap it all up, there's work that needs to be done for both of these people, both of these characters, in order to ascend to a greater state. And the reason why I chose these two characters specifically is because they're such powerful beings, and we see their potential. But just like us, we have some internal battles that are hindering us from reaching that state. And where we see one person going about it in an unorganic way, an unhealthy way, we see another person going through it the right way. And again, I guess who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? But if we're referring to Vegeta, he did go to the dark side, and he did kind of commit suicide. So, yeah. But then that raises a question for me. If you want to integrate your shadow self with your true self, could you follow the chakra system and kind of go through some sort of process to aligning those chakras in order to become your truer self? Because I believe if you were to do that, possibly, actually, highly possible, you might meet all aspects of yourself and ascend to your true self. That's something to think and ponder on. But hopefully I was able to explain that and kind of get you to look at it from a different perspective. And hopefully you can see it through my perspective shift. All right. Now, if you didn't understand before, I think you understand now. If you do, give me a thumbs up. And I think that is it. I think I have stated my case, and I feel like I provided good info to back it up. So I want to know, do you agree? Do you feel like fusing your shadow self and your higher self is the only way to coming into alignment with your true self? Do you think that your higher self is your true self? Do you think that the shadow self is like, meh? I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your opinions. Let's get the discussion going. Because like I said, the spiritual journey is different for everyone. But what makes it beautiful is when we all come together and we can be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I agree. Let me know your thoughts down below. And until next time, I guess I'll see you later.